Hi guys, welcome back to my channel Bookworm. So I hope you all are doing well. And a few days back, I had released my very first video of this channel, which was basically around talking about some tidbits about War and Peace, a very big classic novel written by Leo Tolstoy in 1869. If you are into reading classics, you can go back and check that video, which is there on my channel. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about a book which is not classic per se, but the idea that is being discussed in this particular book, the central idea which is behind this particular book, still resonates in our contemporary societies. Although this book was released more than 20 years back, I think the idea is still alive and it still can be discussed, still can be explored in our contemporary society. So, without any further delays, I will introduce to you to the book that I'm going to discuss today about is this book. I'm sure some of you have know about this, not about this book, but some of you might not. So this is a book, if you can read the title from Jared Diamond, the title is Guns, Germs and Steel. So this book is the very first book in the series of Jared Diamond called Civilizations Rise and Fall. So I'll give you the name of all the three books which are there in that particular series, and in which this book comes first, Guns, Germs and Steel, and after this there is a book from the same writer Jared Diamond, Collapse, and the third book is Upheaval. So in this particular manner, if you end up reading this Guns, Jumps and Steel, it'll be interesting to read those two books as well. And in the future videos, I will try to also cover those books as and when I read them in the future. So Jared Diamond himself is a scientist. He's a professor of geography at UCLA currently, and he had released this book in 1997, more than 20 years back. And this book took the world by a storm when it was released, and the by 1998 itself, it was also awarded a Pulitzer Prize. So this book, Guns, Jumps and Steel, it basically covers topics around history, anthropology, environment, and geography. And so Jared Diamond, he starts off this book with this particular question called Yali's question. So the timeline is way back in the last 20th century when he used to be a young wildlife biologist who was doing some research on bird evolution in the islands of New Guinea. So these like if you are into world map, like if you know world map, you will know where island of New Guinea islands are situated. They are in the far Pacific East, right, on the world map. So this is also one other suggestion. If you want to read this book, you have to open a map. If you don't know the map, world map properly, you have to open it. You have to locate where all the locations are, which you might come across while reading this book. So I'll also quickly show you how the tribes which are living across New Guinea, hunter-gatherer tribes, like even today's age, there are so many tribes across New Guinea which are living in a hunter-gatherer lifestyle. So I'll show you. There are some good pictures here in the book. If you can see, these are some tribal men which call New Guinea as their home, and so on the left, this guy you see is a New Guinea Highlander, a male from a New Guinea Highland tribe living in the high mountains of that particular island. So when as I told you already, when Diamond was doing his research on bird evolution, he was in close contact with this local politician in New Guinea, whose name is mentioned as Yali in the book. And the book, the basically the preface of the book starts from Yali's question to Diamond, asking like, why did you Europeans or like the white people uh, build up so much cargo so early and explore the world? You ended up in our island so early, and why we could not? So this is this central preface. This is the preface from which the book starts, leading to the reader's attention towards the central idea which is there in the book, which is why different societies historically across the world fared differently, why they developed differently, and why they are set up differently in terms of their culture, in terms of their development. That leads to our understanding of why Europeans could develop early with respect to their military, industry, and technology, and could take up voyages across the Atlantic or across the Pacific Ocean and go all the way to Australia, North America, and then put down their hold in those regions as well, and then creating those white societies. You all know that uh, whites are not true Americans, right? There used to be Native Americans, and you all know whites are not true Australians. There used to be even in New Zealand, there used to be tribes in those regions as well. So if I can quickly show you a picture mentioned in this book. Yeah. So if you see here, these two ladies or this lady as well, these are the true faces of Australian Aboriginals, right? If you don't know, this is how Australians used to look, the native Australians. So they're not white. So this book somehow answers that fact that why Europeans could develop those aspects of military, industry, and technology and fair and go across the entire world and putting their mark. So to basically delve into this particular setting, Diamond argues that it's not because of their extra two brain cells that whites might possess that led them to do a lot of scientific research in those particular avenues, but it is also only because of the environment that helped them to grow in advance. And how did that happen? So Diamond argues that for any society to start off normal, not normal, but to start off a lifestyle different from there used to be hunter-gathering lifestyle, they have to start off some sort of food production, which comes from agriculture. So and agriculture could develop better in the tropical regions, right? So within the tropical regions, he argues that with a lot of selection and experimentation of crops in advance, there were several regions in the world such as Fertile Crescent, which is the region of the Middle East around Iraq, Syria, Israel, Turkey, and then the region of China and India, the region of Mississippi Basin in North America, very small region, could start off doing a lot of selection and experimentation with crops, deciding which crops are suitable to be eaten, which are not suitable, and because of this food security, they could then ultimately focus on other things of the development of their society, which is like developing writing, developing small scale trades, and like focusing on political and economic organization, right? After a successful development of food production and like achieving food security in these particular regions, tropical regions, or if I mention that Mediterranean region, having the Mediterranean climate as mentioned in this book, uh, led to the second argument, which is domestication of animals, where Diamond says that the region of Fertile Crescent, Middle East, or the region of China was blessed with a number of species of cows, pigs, and like other goats, so which could be tamed well, which could be reared well, which had no other problems. While thinking of all this, you might think that there are herbivore species living in Africa as well. But then, and also coming to that fact, we all know as Homo sapiens, we all originated for and migrated from the African continent. Why Africans are so behind in terms of their societal development than other continents, including Asia as well. So, Diamond argues that the species, the guild of species which are living in African region, even the herbivore, are not uh, are not good in terms of their domestication, right? So to domesticate, you have some sort of qualities in the species as well, such as their social behavior, their possibilities in doing some captive breeding, their growth rate. So all of these factors leads to a successful domestication of species, which cows, pigs, and goats did possess within the regions of Fertile Crescent and China, or uh, like next to Fertile Crescent in the European belt, in the continuation of it. So, but not in Africa. Africa had like wild buffaloes. Africa has zebras. Africa has like big antelope species like oryx and all. They could not successfully domesticate species as successfully as societies living in the Fertile Crescent and uh, India-China region. So after these two arguments of having the prerequisites of first having successfully developed food production as well as domestication of species as earlier in the history of humanity across the mentioned regions. So the third argument that Diamond gives was about the spread of the cultures and the spread of the societies uh, from these regions across to the other parts of nearby regions, right? So from the if you see on the map, Fertile Crescent is situated right next to Europe. So for the spread of the crops or the species domestication, like the strategies that they could develop in that particular region, it was very easy for it to spread towards Europe, and eventually the spread of writing, the spread of early political and economic integration from these regions to Europe was also easy as early. So the argument that Diamond gives with respect to this easy spread of the societies uh, from Fertile Crescent to the European parts of it uh, is because of its east-west axis. Like if you see on the map, the Asian and European continent does possess a east-west axis. But rather, if you look at the map of Africa or like North America, South America, they have a very like a vertical north-south axis. So because of this east-west axis, it led to in the similarity of the climate. As I mentioned earlier, the book is centered around the environment. So because of these similar east-west axes, it led to the similar latitudes, and that ultimately led to having similar climate and species which got domesticated in Fertile Crescent could very well adapt well in the environments in European setting as well. There is a very there is a separate chapter in the book where Diamond talks about the north-south axis of Africa and how that led to a problem in the transfer of the societies like any agricultural development, or like for example, if uh, uh, the northern sub-Saharan region in Africa could develop early crops, how what was the reason that they could not spread it to the southern regions of Africa, which was on different latitudes and which also owed because of north-south axis. So because those crop species which developed in sub-Saharan Africa could not easily adapt to the environment which was in the other latitudes of the southern region of Africa around Namibia or like South Africa. So owing to these arguments, Europeans having that advancement with respect to food production and domestication of species as well in the similar latitudes could focus on other aspects of the society's development, which is the political or the social or economic integration of society in terms of military development, industries, technology, and even advanced writings. So they could venture out of Europe as early as possible across Atlantic, Pacific, and go to North America. Columbus ended in North America in 1492, we all know. They finished the hunter-gatherer Native Americans as early as they could because they were advanced. And when you go back on the title of this book, it is written that as guns, germs, and steel. So they could develop guns easily early. They could focus on steel tools early, as in comparison to Native Americans, who were still living on with stone tools. And the third thing, the germs. So they were easily exposed with the early diseases, and they immunized themselves well, and they went they went out, and the society which were living in North America or South America or say Australia, aboriginals, they were not exposed to those germs, and their bodies could not adapt towards it quickly, and they died in mass levels, right? So that sort of advancement Europeans did have towards other hunter-gatherer societies in other continents, such as Native Americans, or the Inca Empire, which was in South America, which was also destroyed by Spanish conquistadors as early as 1500 or so, and then Australian Aboriginals, which are also like uh, which were also killed in the in a mass manner, right? So because of these advancements, the Europeans could spread out across the world, and this is how the owing to the environment or the environmental adaptation of a society. Diamond argues that Europeans could fare well, and he argues that this must be the reason of why the societies across the different continents developed differently. I'd say these arguments of Diamond are definitely a theoretical stepping stone towards conducting any future scientific exploration, which might give us database or like properly analyzed situations where we can actually say that environment does play a role in the development of societies differently. Being a student of biology myself, since in the school time, I do know that genetics also play some sort of role in a society's development and its adaptations. We have all we have all done readings on Mendel's and Darwin's. So, but that is that the genetics do not play the role completely. There are other things such as environment as well, owing to which societies develop the way we see them, right? So this book definitely sets up a theoretical benchmark for further exploration in the scientific world. It Second thing, it definitely disqualifies the notion of white supremacy, where whites think they do have two extra brain cells, which led them to have some extra scientific, like not extra, but early scientific explorations, leading them to rule the world. Right. So this book definitely disqualifies this racial disparity that people that this racial notion that the people do perceive or towards justifying that why they are advanced, like why Europeans are advanced in terms of Asians or Africans, right? So lastly, I will say that there are a few chapters in this book separately, which also focuses upon the spread of Chinese society across the Southeast Asian nations of Vietnam or Malaysia or like Cambodia or Indonesian islands, like how island geography worked out in the spread of societies. And there is a separate chapter on Japan. There is a separate chapter on the a very sweet comparison in between the Australian continent as well as the development in the islands of New Guinea, even though they are like very near to each other. So, with that notion, I'll end up my uh, tidbits, which lasted a bit long, I know. And I'll try to keep on bringing new set of books for you all to read in the future. Let me know if you want to read this book. Let me know in the comment section, and I will make sure that I try to reply to all your comments. Other than that, I will also bring upon some new books for you all to read. I'm sure many of you out there might have read some books before me as well. So, but I'll try to give you some good combinations of the books in the future, some good categories also. I will also try to bring in some biographies, some fantasies, or like I will not keep it strictly non-fiction. So to that effect, I'll give you a goodbye, and I'll be back soon with another book. So to Guns, Jumps and Steel for today. Thank you all.